So I've played a ton of the new regulation, right? Magikarp's legal, yeah. I played a ton of Regulation D over the past couple weeks. This is going to be... Oh, Mew and Mewtwo also are illegal. Let's move those before I forget. But this is going to be based on... So sorry, she is. This is going to be based on... What's up, Days? Thank you for the subski. This is going to be based on what I have played, as well as some that I haven't seen, but I think have potential. I'll talk about those too. But most of this is going to be from actual playtime. And we'll just go into what I think is good and what I think is not. Let's start with some of the best threats in the game right now. It looks like they don't let me do Ursh Water and Ursh Dark. Doesn't matter, both of them are S. They're the best new Pokemon added into the game, no questions asked. Easily the best, not even close. Their ability is broken, they can go through Protect, it's stupid. They have base 130 attack, good defenses. They're absurd. They're disgusting. I prefer using Dark Urshifu, but I think Water Urshifu is better. But yeah, they're definitely S tier. Some other stuff that's S tier. What other stuff is a broken S tier? The thing is, I don't really think there's a whole lot of stuff that's broken S tier. I think maybe you can put Ursaluna up there. Ursaluna hasn't been seeing a ton of success, but I think people are just using it incorrectly. So here's the thing, right? We're in a format where Urshifu is the best Pokemon in the format, right? And it has a move that goes through your Protect. So what people will do is they'll put Ursaluna next to Cresselia, and they'll send them both out right away and protect Ursaluna and trigger him with Cresselia. If I can break through your Protects, I kill your Ursaluna before you can do anything. It's very silly. I don't know why they do it. Not to mention, if you have a Fake Out Mon at all right now, you can just Fake Out the Cresselia as they protect and do a bunch of damage to the Cresselia, then still be outside of Trick Room when they want to use it, and you just kill them for it anyway. So I think it's very silly how people are playing Ursaluna, but you'll see that if you can ever get it into a position where it can do damage, it picks Vocos like nobody's business. It's absurdly strong, 140 base attack, great bulk, has guts, so you can't status it to try and control it. Gets Swords Dance, gets Belly Drum, gets Facade, Stab, which you can Terra Normal to make even stronger. Great defensive Terra utility as well. I mean, Terra Ghost is really good on it because a lot of people's answer to it right now is faking out into it or using extreme speed. Yeah, great coverage moves. It's got Headlong Rush. It's got Facade, like I said earlier, which is its main damage dealers. It's got Crunch. It's got Shadow Claw. It is everything. This Pokemon is insane, and I think people just are not using it well yet. So that's going to be another one in S tier. Do I think anything else is S tier? I'm going to say no. I don't think anything else is S tier. I'm just seeing a couple of these, so I'm just going to do this in the meantime. Bad stats. Lonely Dugtrio is terrible. Kanto Taurus is bad. It's worse than the other two Tauruses. Why would you ever run it? We're not going to put NFEs in here, so I'll just take a second and pull those out. Carbink is bad. It's really defensive. That's all it does. It doesn't really do anything for you. Probably pretty decent in singles because Stealth Rock, but it's not a good Pokemon. All right. Let's see. I think we're going to put... We'll start our A tier now. I don't think there's anything that competes with these. Which could be a controversial take. I think some people would put Regieleki up in S. I don't think it's that good. And I don't think it's shown that it can be anything other than electric spam, which it doesn't really do that well because so many people have counterplay for it and it's frail. And with like Terra Normal Extreme Speed running around, like this Pokemon cannot handle that unless you want to Terra Ghost, but then you're sacrificing like pretty essential coverage and you die to Sucker Punch, which is also everywhere right now. So it's like, yeah, I don't think Regieleki is A or S. I will say that I do think it's A. I think it's definitely good enough to be A. I think Heatran is A and Cresselia is A. Cresselia is the bulkiest Trick Room setter. It survives everything that's not critical hit super effective. Like I don't think I've well, without boosts, of course. If you like SD up in front of it, then it'll probably drop, but like unboosted, unless it's critical hit crit, I don't think I've seen anything that kills this. Notably though, Urshifu Dark gets the guaranteed crit on Wicked Blow, which I don't think KOs 100% of the time, but it does a pretty good it does a pretty good percentage of the time. I've definitely, on turn 1, saw these two and faked out into the Ursaluna and just Wicked Blowed this and O-code it. So, that being said, though, Cresselia is, I mean, it's ridiculously bulky. It gets Lunar Dance to heal your party. It gets Trick Room, great support moves. It's an excellent mon. You can also call Mind set up on it and like actually do some damage with it. Really excellent. Definitely deserves A tier. Okay. Other A tier mons, Tornadus and Thundurus. I think Tornadus is significantly better than Thundurus because Thundurus's entire kit is revolving around electric type moves. And obviously I'm a really big Raichu fan. I think Raichu's insane in this metagame. What is that? Proliferation of the prominence of Thundurus and Regieleki make Raichu insane. Among all the other stuff it answers, like Zapdos and any other electric type coverage moves that anything else could have, it's really good, and it makes this impossible to play when you're up against it. Like you set a Raichu up in front of this thing, and it will not do anything to you for the entire game. It's a useless mon. I guess it could Scary Face you, but you can just play Trick Room and then, like, that's a bonus for you. Or you can play a mon with Competitive, and that's a bonus for you. It's excellent it's excellent in any situation where Raichu is not on the field. So that's why I'm still putting it in A. But, you know, Lightning Rod mons and Electric Immunes make this thing's life hell. And it turns out there's a lot of pretty good ones. Let's see, what else should we put in this tier? I'll put Galarian Articuno here. It's the offensive version of Cresselia, right? So takes more damage, does a lot more damage, and also has competitive, which is great because we're dealing with stuff like this dropping Scary Face, the stat drop from Bleak Windstorm, stat drops from Electro Web if you Terra, speed stat drop there. We're dealing with Intimidate from Lando, which also deserves to be up here. I think probably Lando T is better than this. But, you know, any Intimidate mon in the entire game gives you +2 special attack, and suddenly you're OHKOing everything. It's pretty disgusting, and it's a really solid Trick Room mon. It's a Trick Room mon in its own right. Also matches up well against Water Urshifu, because you can tank a Surging Strikes pretty easily if you EV correctly, and then fire back with a Freezing Glare and OHKO it. So, it's definitely underexplored. Everybody's still running Cresselia. I don't think running Cresselia is bad by any means, but I definitely prefer Articuno, and it's because it's a lot less passive. Other stuff that's excellent. Where is it? Looking for Rillaboom. There he is. Rillaboom is excellent. Gets Fake Out, gets Grassy Terrain, which you can use to set off like Grassy Seeds and activate Unburden of actually the next Pokemon. We'll talk about these at the same time because they're often paired together. Sneasler I also think is an A. It's disgustingly powerful, 130 base attack. Gets Unburden, has Dire Claw and Poison Touch. Like, it's going to status you, it's going to do a lot of damage, and there's not really much you can do about it. And there's a bunch of different ways that you can activate Unburden. I think it's really good. I think it's really kind of dumb, but being dumb is a good thing. But yeah, back to Rillaboom. Sets up grassy terrain that's useful for lowering the damage of Earthquake and Earth Power. And I think Stomping Tantrum too, but I'm not sure about Stomping Tantrum. Gets Fake Out, gets a bunch of really good support moves, is excellent with Assault Vest. Can like U-turn out and then knock off, Drum Beating to lower speed. It's decently bulky, and it's a really good answer actually into Water Urshifu. Which when you're a good answer into the best Pokemon in the format, that's a really good thing for you. It's also actually a pretty good answer into Ursaluna as long as it's not under Trick Room, right? So very good mon. Does a lot of protecting of your team, does a lot of damage to the opponents. Probably my second favorite Fake Out mon in the format. Obviously Raichu is my first favorite because Raichu is my girl. But yeah. Let's see, what else do we have in this tier? I'll add both Enamorous forms. People were hyping up Enamorous really hard. I don't think it's nearly as good as people say it is. People are saying it's like a top tier, absurdly busted, broken threat. I don't think it's that. Is it really good? Yes. One thing that I've noticed playing against it, right, is that it's often paired with Thundurus, and if you could prevent Thundurus from doing the stuff to help set it up when it's the contrary form. So like Scary Face to double its speed and Eerie Impulse to double its special attack. If you can prevent it from doing those things, it's actually not that hard to deal with, especially if you decide to run Springtide Storm because they just miss all the time with it. Yeah, but it's still an excellent Pokemon. It's got multiple great sets. It can go physical, it can go special, it can go fast, it can go slow. I think the normal Enamorous is actually more versatile, so I'm gonna say like I think it's significantly more versatile, so I'm gonna say that it's better than Enamorous Therian, but is what it is, right? Enamorous Therian, super bulky, has Overcoat, so it's immune to Amoonguss and all other powder moves. That's a huge deal, especially when you're mainly running it in Trick Room and Amoonguss is slower than you. But 130 special attack, ability to boost it. It's a good mon. Especially because you can just like pair it next to Cresselia, right? And it has a good matchup into like Dark Urshifu, which is the main thing that like really punishes Cresselia. Doesn't do quite as well into Water Urshifu, but it's still really good. And it has the ability to OHKO both of them in return. So like it's another really solid Pokemon in Trick Room. I don't think it's the level of Ursaluna, but it's really solid and definitely needs to be taken seriously. Otherwise, you're going to get blown up. Let's see. I think in... Gosh, is this everything that I want to put in this category? Yeah, I think so. I think this is everything I want to put in this category. We'll start moving into stuff that I think is like B tier. So basically what this is like, let me just add these subtitles here. So S is meta-defining threats, the best Pokemon in the video game. A is excellent. B is very good in, what'd I say? Like B is like, yeah, B is like good choice. C is like niche. I should go back and capitalize. And obviously trash is what it says it is. Can I just... So now we're moving into stuff that I think is good. It's not excellent. It is not these, but it is definitely worth using in some senses, right? I think the first one that we can put up here is Hisuian Arcanine. Choice Band Head Smash does absurd amounts of damage, has good matchups into a lot of this stuff, right? You can also run Choice Band Extreme Speed next to like Chien-Pao. Sort of do a Dragonite thing, but with different coverage moves. For example, Choice Band Head Smash, Adamant Max Attack, has a good chance to OHKO most Heatrans. That's really valuable. Destroys the Genies, destroys Rillaboom, destroys Flare Blitz off of this does like 70% to Ursaluna. It's really excellent. Does a lot of damage. The only problem is its typing and its defenses. But you can make up for that by just utilizing speed control, right? And we have a bunch of really good speed control options up here. So as long as you play around it, you can make this Pokemon shine in some pretty crazy ways. Let's see, what's next? I think we'll put Glastrier and Spectrier here. I could see an argument for Glastrier and Spectrier being up here. But I'm not going to put them up here just because I think like this is a better Trick Room threat, so why would you really run this? And like there are other better special attacking threats, so why would you really run this? But they are still insane, right? They have the Chilling Neigh for this one and Grim Neigh for this one, so every KO you get boost special attack here, boost physical attack here. Great move pools, mostly physical attacks from Glastrier, but it's a great Assault Vest user, especially because its defense is naturally higher. You can bulk it out really heavily. It's got 30 base speed, so under Trick Room, you're underspeeding basically everything. And it's pretty much guaranteed to take 1 KO per turn in Trick Room, which is exactly what you want a Trick Room on to do. And especially after you get the first KO, it just becomes disgusting. It'll start OHKOing things that it has no right to do. Spectrier is a similar story on the special side, but it's fast. Has access to Shadow Ball, has access to Dark Ball, Psychic, has Snarl, has Draining Kiss if you want to like do a little bulkier set, gets Calm Mind, gets Nasty Plot, so lots of boosting options. I should mention that this also gets Swords Dance. Glastrier gets Swords Dance, but has a ton of boosting options, gets Will-O-Wisp, is immune to Extreme Speed, which is really huge. So like, let's say you're facing Chien-Pao Dragonite, you throw this in, it's immune to Extreme Speed, most Chien-Pao are only running Sucker Punch to hit Dark, or to hit Pokemon for Dark type coverage. So then you can just like Wisp them. You're totally immune to one, you Wisp the other as they go for a Sucker Punch on you. Really great situation. I'm a huge fan of of Ghost types that have Will-O-Wisp. I mean, I used Misdreavus to great effect for 2 full seasons. Yeah, and now this can do Misdreavus things, but it also will blow you up if you let it sit on the field for too long. Even if you don't invest in special attack, because any KO it gets instantly makes it a massive threat. So I definitely think these two are excellent, and people need to take them seriously. So what other stuff? We'll put Galarian Moltres here. That's a really excellent Pokemon. It has Berserk, is really bulky. Berserk, basically what happens is after you go underneath 50% HP, you get a special attack boost of +1. If you get above 50% HP again and then go below again, you get another boost. So commonly you'll run a super bulky set with like a Citrus Berry. You'll take just over 50%, heal up over that, go down below 50% again, and you're at +2. It also gets Nasty Plot, gets Fiery Wrath, which is an excellent spread move that can also cause flinching, gets pretty good coverage. Generally people are running Air Slash. I think you could probably find a better option than that, but they do they. Gets access to Tailwind if you want to run it that way. Yeah, has a lot of options. Is very bulky and has the ability to come back in the late game and sweep you if you're not careful. We'll put normal Zapdos in this tier as well. Normal Zapdos. This is just an excellent mon, as it always has been. It's very bulky. Doesn't have, or has a pretty solid set of resistances, gets access to Tailwind, has good electric moves, 125 base special attack stats, so you're doing pretty good damage. Yeah, this mon has always been excellent as like a pivot, as Tailwind setter, as just like a Gloomon, and it stayed the same in this generation. If you're looking for just an electric type to slap onto a team and you don't want to use Regieleki, Zapdos will never steer you wrong. I'm actually going to put Galarian Zapdos up here too, because Galarian Zapdos gets Defiant. It's got 100 base speed, which is a pretty good speed tier. You can run this Scarfed and outspeed most things. Outside of Trick Room, people actually ran Power Band, which is like that training item that cuts your speed in half, but gives you more EV reward. They've run that on this and run it in Trick Room, and it's pretty good. Defiant is a great ability, and it's one of the only mons that, or one of the only relevant mons that gets it. So it's a good counter to like Lando, to Arcanine, to anything that wants to intimidate you or lower your stats. It's a good counter to, similar to like how I mentioned Galarian Articuno is. I'm actually going to put Zapdos up here. I think Zapdos is better than this tier. And maybe this. Fuck it. I'm putting all these up here. But yeah. Excellent Pokemon. Excellent glue Pokemon. Really good stuff. Should definitely look into it. Let's look at both Typhlosion forms. Just because they're right next to each other. I think they're both niche. It's arguable which one is better, right? This one has more special attack. And an immunity to Fake Out. But this one is faster. Notably, you can actually outspeed Urshifu with this one. You cannot with the... You can outspeed Urshifu with base form Typhlosion. You cannot with Hisuian Typhlosion. So that's why I've personally gravitated more towards base Typhlosion. You can run Terra Grass, Terra Blast, and just remove Water Urshifu from the game. And again, if you have a good matchup into Water Urshifu, which is the best Pokemon in the format right now, you're going to have a good time. Also gets really powerful eruptions. Not quite as powerful as Hisuian Typhlosion. So it's toss-up, right? It's a win some, lose some for either option. If you're running hard speed control and you plan on only running it with hard speed control, then Hisuian Typhlosion is better. If you want to be a little bit more flexible, I think actually base Typhlosion is better. But, you know, totally up to you. Run what you want. Oh, and I should note that what I'm talking about when I say outspeeding is with Choice Specs. If you want to run Choice Scarf, Hisuian Typhlosion is always better. Let's see, what other stuff can be good? I'm going to say Alolan Persian is niche, but it's got a really good support move pool. Gets Fur Coat, which doubles its defenses. Running Assault Vest on it seems like actually a pretty good idea. It gets stuff like Fake Out, it gets stuff like Snarl, it gets stuff like Dark Pulse. I forget what other stuff it has. Its move pool is really good. I've looked at it a bit. Let's just pull it up. Right, well, the Persian moveset gets Quash, which is pretty good because it's pretty fast. Obviously, you wouldn't run this on the Assault Vest set, but it gets like Power Gem for coverage. Gets Play Rough. Gets Chilling Water if you want to just lower the attack of your opponents. Gets Icy Wind for speed control. Gets Foul Play, and it's a dark type, so that's going to do a ton of damage. And these are all things that you could run on the Assault Vest set, right? I'm skipping over all these support moves. Actually, that wasn't the correct one, but it looks like these are pretty similar. But, you know, we're looking at, like, Snarl, like I said. Confuse Ray, which is sort of okay. Charm and Fake Tears for dropping the opponent's stats. Thunder Wave for speed control. Taunt. Helping Hand. Yeah, its move pool is pretty insane. Also gets access to Hypnosis. They're breeding, I think. Yeah. Gets Parting Shot. Yeah, this mon is stupid. It has everything you could ever need. The only issue is that to make it viable, you need to run Fur Coat. Because otherwise you're gonna explode. But its stats are tolerable, and its move pool is excellent. Mono Dark is pretty good typing. It's got a good niche. I think it's pretty alright. We're gonna look at Basculegion. I think both Basculegion forms are in the good category. Insane HP totals, really hard to take down. Pretty good rain sweepers. I think the only reason they're in good and not in excellent, honestly, is because why would you ever run these when Urshifu exists, when Water Urshifu exists? But I think they're both pretty good. Their attack stats aren't that crazy, but they both get access to adaptability. They get Swift Swim as well. Male Basket Legion likes to run Last Respects, which we've seen be insane in the singles metagame, and it's pretty good in the doubles metagame too. Yeah, all around good stuff. Pretty good mons. I expect to see a lot of them as we move forward with this, as we move forward with Reg D. But I don't think they're like metagame defining or like top class threats, you know. But they definitely will show up. They definitely will surprise you. I expect them to be around like, you know, how every once in a while you see like in Reg C, you'll see an Azumarill show up next to like a Pelipper and it'll start doing really crazy stuff. But not everybody runs it. That's about what I'm thinking for these guys. In this tier, we're going to put Hisuian Gudra. It gets body press, it sits on the field forever, and it makes you sad. Runs leftovers, runs acid armor, or shelter, or whatever you want to double its defenses. And also runs shell armor, the ability, so it can't be crit, meaning that you don't have a really good way to get past its defense boosts. It seems counterintuitive, but honestly, I've had more success targeting this with special moves than I have with physical moves, despite its high, I think it's 150 base special defense. Just because after it boosts, its defense totally outweighs its special defense. So even super effective hits, if it gets multiple boosts off, even super effective physical hits are doing less than like neutral special hits. It's pretty disgusting. If you can set it up, it will win you the game single-handedly. But it is a little bit difficult to set up, and enough offensive pressure from your opponent can't keep you from getting it set up effectively. Or any status. Burn is really good against it, because it lowers the damage of body press. Sleep is broken, as it always has been, so that's a good option against it as well. Yeah, status and somehow special moves seem to be the best answers to this. But if you don't give it time to set up, it won't bother you. If you do give it time to set up, it will sweep your team. Let's see what else we've got. I'm going to put Hisuian Lilligant up here. It's just better normal Lilligant when you're running it alongside Sun. Close Combat and Leaf Blade have higher base powers than normal Lilligant. It still gets after you. It still gets Sleep Powder. It's just better normal Lilligant. It gets Victory Dance, but I don't really, which is like a physical version of Quiver Dance. I don't expect to see that run on this very much. It's a pretty niche thing to run. But next to Torkoal or in Sun, this one does all the stuff Lilligant does that make people upset at Lilligant, except it has better moves, or it has access to better moves. So definitely expect to see this one a lot. Regidrago we're going to put up here. Regidrago is a little bit harder to use than a lot of other special attacking threats, but if you use speed control and you put choice specs on it and you click Dragon Energy, there's a good chance you're picking up at least one KO, probably both of the opponent's Pokemon, and then they're going to send out the next Pokemon and they're going to die too. So, like Tornadus plus Regidrago, if they don't lead to counter this, and you lead that, you win the game. Like, it's not even close. You just win the game. So because of that, I think it's good, but it is also a little bit difficult to use. We're going to put Overquill and Hisuian Quillfish. This is the only notable not fully evolved that I think like actually has a niche. It gets Eviolite, gets super bulky. Both of these get Intimidate. Intimidate's a great ability. They have great typing in Poison and Dark. Defensively, that's excellent stuff. Have good move pools for the most part. Get access to Swift Swim. Get access to Swords Dance. There's lots of stuff that you can do with these, but at the end of the day, their stats just aren't high enough to put them up into the good tier, so I'm going to keep them in the niche tier. Moving along, let's take a look at Hisuian Samurott. This one's definitely niche, but it's still pretty good. I'm actually going to put it up here. These aren't really ordered, but I'll put it up here with these other ones. Hisuian Samurott gets Ceaseless Edge, gets Aqua Cutter, Gets sharpness to boost both of those moves. Ceaseless Edge sets up spikes when you hit it. It's good dark type stab. It's definitely a usable mon. But again, its stats sort of leave a little bit to be desired. Sharpness kind of makes up for that, but stats leave a little bit to be desired. So in most cases, I don't see anybody really running this. That being said, somebody will definitely show up and make use of it, but it's not something you're slapping on every team, which is why I put it in the niche. Let's do a Lowland Muck. A Lowland Muck does similar things to Overquill in the sense that it's got excellent typing, Poison Dark. And it does, it's just an annoying Pokemon. It's difficult to remove. It's got good HP stat, good defensive stats. Gets stuff like Knock Off to remove your items. Has the ability Poison Touch, so every time it knocks off your item, it might also poison you. Really annoying to deal with, but overall pretty niche, so that's where we're putting it here. Zoroark, Hisuian, niche, but good. If you fake somebody out with this, you could potentially score a KO before they can even retaliate. But the reality of the situation is that most of the time these things are bulky enough that they're not going to die to a Hisuian Zoroark without it boosting. And boosting reveals immediately what it is. So it's a little difficult to make work. You can run like specs on it. You can run Focus Sash on it. I just don't think it's that good. But definitely in some games, being able to like dodge a fake out and retaliate with damage will get you a win. It's niche, but it's an interesting niche that only it can do, and it does it well. We're going to put the Cantonian birds down here. Actually, let me take a look at Moltres' stats real quick. Okay, so decent stats, 125, base special attack. Gets some good moves. Yeah. I think this is fair. Gets access to Will-O-Wisp, gets access to Tailwind, gets access to like Heat Wave and Overheat if you want to turn a choice spec set. Fire Blast too if you decide you want to run that instead of one of the other ones. Gets access to Hurricane. And it does all that kind of stuff, but I don't really see why you're running this. 4 times super effectively hit by Rock, which is a common coverage move on like Land OT. Not that bulky. Like, it's bulky, but it's not that bulky, so it's not going to stick around forever. And I think there are just better Tailwind options, right? Like, you're running this if you want to use Tailwind, but if you're using Tailwind, you should just use Tornadus, or Galarian Moltres, or Zapdos, or even Galarian Articuno, because it learns Tailwind, or any other Genie that learns Tailwind, and Amorous learns Tailwind, so you could use that instead. Use Galarian Zapdos. Like, there's really no reason to run it. Articuno is definitely the worst of the birds, and I was going to put it in trash, but then somebody won a tournament with it using Snowcloak and Bright Powder. And like, I don't think it's good, but they made it work, and I'm giving it credit here by putting it in niche and not putting it in trash. You're welcome, Articuno. I love you. Please be better. I really wish I could use you and feel good about it. Let's see. Electrode. Hisuian Electrode. Niche. Its stats are not great, but it's really fast, and it gets access to Chloroblast, which is a 150 base power move. It gets access to electric stab moves, Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, all that fun stuff. And really the only reason that I think it's niche, right, is that it's really fast, and it totally destroys Water Urshifu. Both of its stabs destroy Water Urshifu. So, it's not a very good Pokemon, but it has a good matchup, a favorable matchup against Water Urshifu and Ursaluna. And that has to be worth something. That has to be worth something. So I'm putting it in a niche, but that could be generous. Let's see. Raichu, Alolan Raichu. I'm sorry, you're bad. I'm sorry, Alolan Raichu. You're not good. Especially not right now. It's rough. I love the Raichu line. It gets Surge Surfer, so it goes really fast on electric terrain. But it's not good. It doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. Psychic typing right now is more of a detriment than a benefit. And there's no good electric terrain setters, so you're not even going to get to use its high speed to use its support moves. It'll be better as soon as we get like a good electric terrain setter, but honestly, by the time we get that, I'm thinking it's going to be passed by. Like by the time Tapu Koko comes into the game, or by the time Miraidon is in the game, like legal for us in VGC, it's just not going to be powerful enough anymore, I don't think. You know? If we had a good electric terrain setter right now, it could be viable, but it's not, because we don't have one. Rip Alolan Raichu. I love you, buddy, but you're not good. Slowbro and Slowking, they're both pretty mid, but they're Trick Room setters. Slowbro gets Shell Sidearm, which means it moves first sometimes. They have decent stats. Like, they're fine. They're just fine. I'm going to put Uxie down here. I'm actually going to do this. Let's just put the entire Lake Trio where I think they belong, right? So Uxie is down here because Uxie's main thing is being really bulky. A really bulky Psychic type with Levitate. We already have a really bulky Psychic type with Levitate. It's Cresselia. Cresselia is better at doing Cresselia things than Uxie is at doing Cresselia things. So Uxie doesn't really have a place to exist. You can put like choice specs on it, but why would you do that? It's base 75 special attack. It's not going to do a whole lot of damage. You know, if you don't want to run Cresselia for some reason, then this becomes the new best Psychic type Levitate Trick Room setter. But, like, just don't. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Don't use Uxie. That being said, let's talk about Mesprit next. So Mesprit's entire thing is that it's balanced. Almost all of its stats are base 105, so it actually does have kind of a niche. It's still really bulky. It's still a Psychic type Pokemon with Levitate, but a 105 base special attack stat and physical attack stat makes it powerful enough that you can actually do something with it. So a lot of people I have seen have been experimenting with like spec sets. You know, I think that's worth considering. You know, it's actually bulky. It has a decent matchup into Ursaluna, especially like, let's think about what most of the time Ursaluna runs. Is just going to be Headlong Rush, Facade. Potentially a coverage move, but some people have been going for like Earthquake or Swords Dance or Belly Drum or all that kind of stuff. You Terra Ghost this along with any of the other Lake Trios, and it literally can't hit you anymore. You know? Like, it cannot touch you anymore. It will not... You don't get hit. So in situations like that, they're pretty good. Yeah. Definitely worth looking into. I think it's pretty underrated right now. Specifically because it's still pretty bulky and it has the ability to run like choice specs. And as a result of being able to run choice specs, it's a decent answer into Water Urshifu. You know, I keep coming back to this, but again, this is the best Pokemon in the format. If you have a decent matchup into it, that's really good for you. Next, let's talk about Azelf. Azelf is the faster, more offensive more offensive member of the Lake Trios. 125 base attack and special attack. Not really good defenses. 115 base speed. So decently fast. It's not going to outspeed a whole lot of other stuff. So if you really want it to be moving first, you're going to need some speed control. But it's pretty easy to make this outspeed Urshifu, in which case you have a great matchup into it. It learns Zed Headbutt. It learns... Play Rough. It learns special moves from both its typings as well. You can run its signature move, the one that has a chance to boost your special attack. You can also run Psychic. You can run... I think Dazzling Gleam is what it has. I can't remember. But it's got a great move pool. and it's got good offenses. But the most interesting thing that it can do is actually when you run the Choice Band set, Terra Normal Explosion. So I've seen other people like use that a little bit. I think it's actually super underrated because you can put it next to Chen Pao now. So you have an ability that lowers the defenses of all of your opponent's Pokemon. Then you Terra Normal Choice Band, Explosion, 200 base power off of a 125 attack stat, boosted by Choice Band. You're probably going to KO some stuff. There's a good chance that the opponent's 2 Pokemon are going to die. And since it's not reliant on HP, like Eruption or Dragon Energy is, they can take a hit and then fire off that explosion and still kill you for it. Very threatening Pokemon. It's got a lot of variety in its sets, held back specifically by not being crazy fast, right? Like, it's pretty frail, and it's not... Like, most of the time, if you're going to be running a really frail Pokemon, you want it to outspeed everything. This does not do that. But it does outspeed a lot of relevant threats and offers some very unique and interesting applications for its skill set. Definitely worth looking into. Seeing Bravery, extremely niche. I'm only putting it in niche because I kind of believe in it, but it's extremely niche. It gets Tinted Lens, which is an excellent ability. It also gets Sheer Force, which is again an excellent ability. You can run Sheer Force Life Orb with Agility to circumvent its bad speed. Sheer Force Life Orb, like Sheer Force, removes the secondary effects of all attacks and increases their damage output. It also removes the secondary effect of Life Orb, so you don't actually take Life Orb damage when you're running Life Orb on a Sheer Force Pokemon. Which is actually, we'll get into that a little bit later because we still have Lando I here. And this does a very similar thing. It also has Sheer Force, it also runs Life Orb. But Seeing Bravery can do that, or it can do Tinted Lens, which basically makes every not very effective move, it doubles its power, which directly counters the power drop from being resisted. So every resisted move now becomes not resisted, which is really helpful when you're dealing with a move pool like its move pool. It doesn't have a whole lot of great options. You're probably running Heat Wave, Esper Wing, or Psychic, depending on which one you're, depending on whether or not you're running the Tinted Lens or Sheer Force sets. And then maybe like Calm Mind and Protect. It's not an easy Pokemon to make work. It takes a lot of setup, but once you get it set up, it will start seriously demolishing teams. And being a Psychic type, it once again has a decent matchup into Urshifu. It's also really bulky, so definitely something to look out for. I don't think it's that great, but it's something to look out for. Tornadus, extremely niche. Not sure why you'd ever run this. Tornadus Therian. If you wanted a Tailwind setter, you should just run normal Tornadus. It's faster than normal Tornadus, but normal Tornadus gets Tailwind, so why would you worry about its speed stat? The only thing that this has is Regenerator, so I could see somebody making a choice spec set with this, and then putting U-turn as its final move. So it'll do a bunch of damage, then switch out, or like go in, take a hit, and then U-turn out, deal a little bit of damage, and regen all of its HP through its ability. That's really the only niche I can see for it, but it's a niche, so we put it in niche. Thundurus, we're going to put in, or Thundurus Therian, we're going to put in good. Definitely think this is a solid Pokemon. It's a little bit slower than standard Thundurus, but it has a much higher special attack stat, hitting in at 145, which I believe is the same as Spectre, if I remember correctly. Excellent attacks, excellent special attack stat, one of the highest in the game. And it gets really good moves. So it does excellent damage. It also gets Volt Absorb as its ability, so if you're running up against like a Regieleki or a Zapdos or an opposing Thundurus or anything like that, you switch this in, you get a free heal. Yeah, does really excellent damage. I could definitely see a Specs version running around on rain teams in the future. Its signature move, the Wild Bolt Storm, is 100% accurate in rain, and also gives you the opportunity to paralyze your opponent. a lot of time normal Thunderous will run this, Thunderous Eye. But Thunderous Therian also can run that, and coming off of 145 special attack stat, it's going to hurt a lot. Definitely has a place in the metagame, not really explored right now. I'd be kind of interested in playing around with it in later time frames, but it doesn't really fit the team that I'm making right now either. But I definitely believe in this thing. You can't have 145 special attack and a good ability like Volt Absorb and be bad. I just don't think you can. So I expect this thing to be good, and I think we'll see a lot of it later down the line. Something I expect to see a lot of right now, and expect to be very good down the line, is Landorus Incarnate. This does the exact same stuff that I was talking about TC and Bravery with, where it has Sheer Force and Life Orb, but it uses ground type moves, and ground and flying are an excellent duo of coverage. It has great move pool otherwise outside of that. Does insane damage, gets access to Sandsear Storm if you want to run it in rain. Sandsear Storm is like Wind Blight and Thunder, or it's like Wind, I don't remember what the other two are called. It's the same as the other two Genie ones. It's spread on your opponents only. 80% accurate, 100 power, and it has the chance to burn, right? You're removing the chance to burn to get extra power, but you could also run Sand Force theoretically and get the chance to burn. That's something to look into, I think. Although I think if we're going to see Sandsear Storm, we'll more likely see it on, like with the goal to burn, we'll more likely see it on a supportive Lando I set. But, or a Lando T set, but Lando I, definitely an excellent Pokemon. I expect to see a lot of it. It hurts. If it Earth Powers you, it's going to be a ton of damage. So I'd watch out for this. Great special attacker. And can run physical moves as well with a 125 attack stat. It's going to be a terror. I think it's definitely underexplored. And I think as we start seeing more Regieleki and Zapdos and electric types in general, it's going to be around a lot more because it's immune to this attacks, being ground and flying itself. Yeah. Definitely think we'll see a little bit of it. Definitely think it's good, and it deserves its A placement. Delphox is bad. Don't use Delphox. Chestnut is niche. Chestnut, its biggest problem in past generations, as far as I can understand, because obviously I didn't play them, but, judging by its typing and what other people have said, is its typing. Too many things hit it super effectively. Now we have Terra. It doesn't have that problem anymore. It gets access to Iron Defense Body Press, which we've seen be really strong on Corviknight. We've seen it be really strong on Hisuian Goodra, so much stuff. It gets a Leech Seed for semi-consistent recovery. It gets Spiky Shield, so you can punish things for trying to attack you. And it gets Bulletproof, the ability Bulletproof, which actually cancels out a ton of moves. Stuff like Bullet Punch, Shadow Ball, Moonblast, tons of moves. Tons of moves are canceled out by it. You can get the full list if you look up Bullet Punch or Bulletproof. Actually, let's just do that. Yeah. Immune to Acid Spray, Aura Sphere, Barrage, which we haven't seen in forever. It's not worth using. Bullet Seed, Electro Ball, Energy Ball, Focus Blast, Gyro Ball, Pollen Puff, Pyro Ball, Rock Blast, Seed Bomb, Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb. I thought it was immune to Moonblast too, but it's not here, so I guess maybe not Moonblast. But Weather Ball, Zap Cannon, you just don't, you're immune to these moves. They cannot hurt you at all. That's pretty nuts. So it's definitely niche. I wouldn't expect to see a lot of it, but it'll play similarly to how Garganacl played or how Wo-Chien played. It'll just sit there on the field forever, being annoying, leech seeding you, being unkillable, and switching into your Shadow Balls to make you really frustrated. Niche, absolutely, but good in its niche, also absolutely. Hisuian Avalok, garbage, don't use it. Decidueye, garbage, don't use it. Hisuian Decidueye, extremely niche, but better than normal Decidueye. Hisuian Decidueye gets Scrappy and Triple Arrows, which is an excellent move. It has a high crit chance, has a chance to drop your opponent's defense, and it's 90 base power. And because of Scrappy, that actually hits Ghost types too. So Scrappy also prevents Intimidate, which is really helpful because the attack stat is not that high, but it's serviceable. It gets Leaf Blade as its physical grass move. It gets Shadow Sneak if you need priority. Gets a lot of stuff. Lots of excellent moves. Gets Sword Stance as well. Gets a lot of excellent moves. It's really slow, so that's either a hindrance or a blessing, depending on how you want to run it. If you're trying to run it in Trick Room, that's good for you. If you're not trying to run it in Trick Room, good luck. But, you know, it can do some pretty serious damage, and Triple Arrows is a pretty broken move. So if you're in a situation where you can get some attacks off with it, it'll put in some work. The problem is getting into a situation where you can get some attacks off with it. It's Grass Fighting, which is the same type as Chestnut, 4 times weak to Flying, weak to Psychic, weak to Fire, you know, weak to a lot of stuff. Weak to Fairy. It's rough. It's rough, but if you can get some attacks off, it'll do some work for you. So we're putting it in niche. Inteleon, I'm putting it in good. It's a high speed, high special attack, gets access to Haze, has a 100% accurate water move, which like nothing else has. So thank you so much, Inteleon, for having a 100% accurate water move. That's literally the reason you're up here. I would be totally fine with somebody saying you're niche, but you get a 100% accurate water move, and I'm biased. And I'm the one making the list, so you're going up here. Word Ear, bad. Don't use it. Why would you ever use this? It's a bad Intimidate Pokemon when compared to other Intimidate Pokemon. It's a bad Trick Room Pokemon when compared to other Trick Room Pokemon. Don't use this Mon. It's not good. Cleavor. Niche. We're actually going to put it right next to Hisuian Samurai because they basically do the same thing. Cleavor has more attack, so off of Sharpness boosted stuff, you're actually going to be doing some really serious damage. But its typing's worse, being Rock and Bug. Lots of weaknesses there. Its signature move, Stone Axe, sets up Stealth Rocks, which I think is arguably better than Samurot's, because Samurott sets up Spikes. Spikes you can have multiple levels of, so if you Ceaseless Edge multiple times, you get higher reward, but you have to take multiple turns setting it up. Stealth Rocks is a one-time thing. It's done, it happens, and it will chip the rest of your opponent's Pokemon for the rest of the game in doubles, because we don't really run hazard removal. And importantly, Stealth Rocks hit flying types, Spikes do not. Stealth Rocks hit levitators, Spikes do not. So I think this one's actually better than Hisuian Samurott, just because it's got a higher attack stat, and it's got the upside for hitting its move is better. But I still don't think it's great. I think it's pretty niche. Setting up hazards in VGC has always been niche, and I don't think their strengths by themselves actually carry them far above that. But they'll show up and they'll do some work. Somebody will play them and they'll do some work. Hey everybody, this is Chief. That video came directly from my live stream. If you're looking for a place to just hang out, talk about Pokemon, or just want to chill and have a good time, I'll leave a link in the description, and I hope to see you there.